Uh, this is from Harriet. I would like to see In a Lonely Place remade with an ending that leaves open the possibility for Laurel and Dix to reconcile. Also, if I were the producer, I would have Dix's violent reactions toned down. It was enough that Dick's bogey used his fist. Did he have to lift that big rock to almost smash a kid's head in the road rage scene? Also, Laurel slash Gloria was afraid of him for half the movie. So where was the romance?
Okay, Harriet. Wow, okay. Um, I don't know how to phrase this except to say, Harriet, I'm glad you weren't the producer of In a Lonely Place. Uh, but but here's the deal. The book the book was popular. I mean, I'm not going to say it was a bestseller or something, but the book won the Edgar Award from the Mystery Writers of America as the best novel. I forget what year it came out, 47 or 48 or something. So they dramatically changed the book for the movie. But I think all those things that Harriet is pointing out about Dix's violent nature were necessary in the movie, given that they were making these very, very bold changes from the book. I'm going to come right. Everybody's seen it by now.
Yeah.
You know, in the book, Dix is a killer. He is a serial killer. And they weren't going to do that in the movie. But in the movie, he kills Laurel at the end of the film. I mean, in the original version of the movie. And then Nick Ray said, I don't want to shoot that. You know, I mean, they actually did shoot it, right? And then he said, I can't live with it. So they changed it to the ending as it is now. But obviously, if that was going to be the original ending, all of those violent moments in the film had a meaning, right? When he, at dinner with Brub and his wife, when he reenacts the killing, and when he, threatens to crush that kid's head with the rock, when he smacks, Mel Lipman in the face and breaks his glasses. I mean, he is a violent person. He has a violent temper. And I think that was a big part of the movie. And where I understand it, when Harriet asked where was the romance, I think the romance came in because clearly Laurel Gray is on the rebound from a very bad relationship that she was in with Mr. Baker. And she was very attracted to this incredibly smart, cynical, bright, creative guy. And when she realizes that she's the one who has rekindled his spirit and got him back to work, that's a form of romance. I mean, there's a real romance happening there. And he obviously loves her because of that. But they are two totally different people, and we realize that they cannot live together, and it's not going to work. And
and also, I mean, for me, it's really funny because I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's so tragic." Because at the end, with the phone call, and it's like it's too late, and it's like he's abusive, and he had broken the nose of another woman. I mean, like that scene with the masseuse where she's saying, sweetheart, this guy's dangerous. This is going to be like with Baker getting away from this guy and stuff. It's true. And, that relationship was inevitably going to be dangerous to her, regardless of whether or not he had been accused of that murder. It was inherently dangerous because he's a guy who's hit women before and he drinks. And he can't control his anger. She was always going to be in danger from him. Yeah, my 2 cents.
I couldn't agree more, and that's why I admire that movie so much. I mean, I have gone on record as saying it's my favorite movie, part of the reason for that is because it was so against the grain of Hollywood movies of the time, because it was so adult, and it was saying, this is what makes people fall in love, and then all of a sudden you realize maybe they don't belong together,
Yeah.
right? And this story is going to play out repeatedly with Dixon Steele. I mean,
Yeah.
this is his modus operandi. This is exactly how he's going to be. The movie can't give you any more hints that this has been his life up to this point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so it sounds to me like, Harriet wanted a different story. She wanted a romantic ending, but that's the whole point of In a Lonely Place, is that they're not giving you that. They're not giving you that. It's one of the few Hollywood movies of that era that predicts all of those things that are now somewhat commonplace. The domestic violence stuff, the pass that artists get, for being
for the
violent and abusive because they're creatives, right? I mean, that was Nick Ray's own story. That's his personal story.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he was not an easy guy to live with. Neither was Humphrey Bogart. I mean, God loved that Lauren Bacall could handle that.
Yeah.
But he was not an easy guy to live with. And that's why I think that movie is genius.
Yeah, and I think also with Laurel's characters, there's also the side of her with this mention of this other guy. She picks unhealthy relationships. It's not just him. She's on the other side of that this is like probably even a worse pick than her first one was, and that's part of, she's in that dynamic too, which is much more realistic than just one or the other. And then I think also it was for me, it makes a really nice pairing with the novel, because the novel's really talking about misogyny and violence towards women in this really, in this really extreme way that does happen, but it's that kind of thing. And I don't think they really could have done that story, but I like the other one because it's also showing this other type of violence and threat to women's safety that also comes. It's like the two things, right? It's like the stranger thing, which is scary and can happen, but the domestic thing is really the majority of violence against women is in domestic relationships. Mm-hmm. So I really like them. Like, I really like the two as a set because it's like showing these two aspects of the same kind of violence towards women in American culture, but in different ways it plays out.
Right. And it's interesting because I as that movie became more and more renowned, and people realized, and it rekindled interest in the novel, and then people realized that the novel was entirely different.
Yeah.
Same premise, but entirely different. I know a lot of people said, oh, we should remake this because they've never actually shot the novel. But I always said that's not a good idea, because if you remade it the way the novel was written, that movie has been made 1,000,000 times since then.
Yeah.
Now, because the guy is a killer and it is a serial killer movie, and there's nothing that unique about it now. It's a great book, but I question the value of remaking it as it was originally written. What makes the movie distinctive is it doesn't go for those tropes, and Nick Ray, God love him, if it's the only film he ever made, I would love this guy because he had the stones to say, I can't live with that ending. It's just, and making those changes to where they just separate and walk away from each other is incredible. I mean, I can't think of another film from that period quite like it, at least in this country.